This article originally appeared on the Black Rose Anarchist Federation website, blackrosefed.org. It was published on April 16th, 2020, and is read here by a Black Rose member. Labor Organizing During COVID-19, a University Janitor's Account by Bojan McNally. I love working, but I hate jobs and I hate capitalism. The state of our modern economy is such that, even after squeezing in a bachelor's in anthropology, I work in custodial building sanitation at the University of Washington. I clean the offices and bathrooms of my former professors while earning almost half below the poverty level in my city. As of this writing on April 1st, we just lost our first UW custodian to the coronavirus, roughly 2 weeks after a prominent professor from the Department of Pathology succumbed to the same virus. With rolling infections, fevers, and deaths, we can expect case spikes every 2 to 3 weeks until there's a vaccine or we flatten the curve through physical distancing. Custodial workers and others like me are on the front line of flattening the curve. In the wake of this COVID-19 crisis, I'm considered essential staff and one of the few who still have a job during the outbreak. I'm not thankful I still have a job. I'm thankful that I have a union I'm active in. All criticism of unions aside, and there are plenty to list, working class power in unions remains important. Union density makes up about 10% of the workforce in the U.S. and 18% in Washington state. From the UFCW grocery worker keeping your food stocked, to the SEIU, AFSCME, or WSNA nurse that takes you in at the hospital. The operator that transported the goods from the dock to the store or hospital was probably a teamster. Where would we be without the ILWU longshoreman that unpacked the medical freight, or the IBEW electrician that keeps the power on? The IOUE worker that maintains water treatment and operations? The ATU bus driver for emergency staff? And there's of course the AFT and WEA teachers scrambling to turn their classes into online courses. Organized labor might be small, but unions can still do something not a lot of other organizations can, and that is punch well above their weight. The union is the application of collective, bottom-up, rank-and-file power. It is what the union members allow it and make it to be. To folks outside of workplace organizing, walkouts and strikes might seem like they burst forth from the seams of a conflict. In actuality, they are grown over time from building relationships between coworkers. Management intentionally maintains confusion among our ranks and exacerbates divisions along racial and other lines in order to demobilize us. If everyone is mad at each other, they can't coalesce around challenging power. Despite this, it is because of the past year of consistently showing up for fellow custodians that I can listen to their stories and we can organize together to take a stand. Organizing during the COVID-19 pandemic takes extraordinary trust, political sobriety, and an honest understanding of what's at stake. For over a year prior to the outbreak, I had been organizing other custodians through walkout pledges. Last December, I was voted in by custodians to be on the next bargaining team. With social distancing in place, I've been making use of remote communications, which is a challenge because of the massive language and digital literacy barriers. Most of my organizing is over the phone and one-on-one conversations, or through text messages punctuated by phone calls. As the COVID crisis hit in mid-March, all masks and eye protection were reserved for the Harborview and University of Washington medical centers. Even though university classes were transferred to online formats, custodians were still considered essential staff. Custodial regular personal protective equipment have been nitrile gloves and masks for those working around asbestos, and eye protection for our chemical station. When I asked my manager if I'd missed any additional training, they handed me a new list of duties and tasks. I clarified that I was asking for new safety protocols, and they said, "Well, it's just like the flu," and to change my gloves and wash my hands. In addition to sanitizing our buildings, UW Building Services treated the health crisis like a snow day or a summer break, an opportunity for floor stripping and re-waxing, retiling, and all sorts of other building services we typically do in the summertime. The first strategy when organizing my coworkers was to get them to phone blitz the UW president. Our asks were simple: hazard pay and better PPE, or put us on paid leave. If you cannot inspire your coworkers to make some simple phone calls, you're not going to be able to convince them to walk out with you. After the phone blitz, there was a statewide pressure campaign on Governor Jay Inslee, who, by March 25th, had issued his statewide stay-in-place order. The result is that our staff of 30 was reduced to 10 per day, with the other 20 on paid leave. I'm only working 2 to 3 days a week, but still at my regular minimum wage salary. We still don't have hazard pay or upgraded PPE. The U.S. has built up over the last 40 years or so a socioeconomic tinderbox that COVID-19 is currently burning through. About 1 month into the coronavirus crisis, and over 22 million Americans have filed for unemployment. It has laid bare the inadequacies and contradictions of not just capitalism, but capital-oriented infrastructure. We are now at a bottleneck with labor at the center. What we must continue to do at my worksite is fanning the growing flames by organizing with each other, digging up more coworker phone numbers until we have a tight web of custodians in communication with one another. I am working class because even though I could stop identifying as an anti-capitalist, as an anarchist, I cannot change my economic situation. I am one militant worker who cleans toilets for a living in a large union local attached to a massive employer associated with an even bigger state and national union. If I could cause as much change as I have this past year, but especially during the COVID-19 crisis, imagine how much more could change if political radicals reintegrated and deepened our involvement in labor struggles. The times ahead are calling into question capitalist social arrangements and economic dominance. The system is on the skids, but it's up to us to actually change it into something different. If we're going to build a new world in the shell of the old, it's going to be labor, like me, like us, that will build it.